So Emily, what's on your radar?
Well, fairness and equality are different concepts that are often conflated or intentionally confused. I think income inequality increasingly represents a lack of fairness, although I'd probably disagree with Ryan on the scale of that. But while the left focuses on income inequality, inequality of social capital is worsening. The consequences are tragic and even worse than mere material suffering, although both are in play. So the Institute for Family Studies, the American Enterprise Institute, and the Wheatley Institution released a study last week on family formation in post-COVID America. They concluded, quote, "In a pandemic-haunted world where both marriage and fertility seem especially daunting, three ingredients have emerged as signally important for family formation in the United States: money, hope, and a deep dedication to family. And the rich, the religious, and Republicans are generally more likely to possess one or more of these ingredients compared to their lower income, secular, and Democrat/independent affiliated fellow citizens." So when it came to marriage, they found 18% of higher income unmarried adults saw their desire for marriage spike, while 9% saw their desire for marriage decline. So that comes to about a net increase of 9% in the desire to wed among people of higher incomes. But by contrast, that net increase was only 4% for middle income and 2% for lower income Americans. Now, in terms of children, 12% of upper income Americans saw their interest in kids rise, whereas 11% reported a decreased desire. That's what, according to the study. Now, by contrast, a net desire for kids actually fell 6% among middle-income Americans and 11% among lower-income Americans. Overall, then, observed the authors, only among the rich did interest in having kids remain fairly constant. The survey also found marriage and children were more popular with religious Americans and Republicans. Now, weddings and babies are expensive, and many millennials are drowning in debt, battered by the Great Recession, then hit again by COVID, and all of that coming after they were already in a hole from historic levels of student loan debt. They've lived through painful divorces. Now lower levels of social capital are begetting lower levels of social capital. It's kind of a vicious cycle. The Institute for Family Studies has summarized the research on social capital really well, noting women and men who get and stay married tend to be healthier, happier, and better off compared to their peers who never marry, who divorce, who marry and remarry. Men, for instance, live about 9 years longer if they get and stay married. Women are much better off in retirement if they are married rather than divorced or single, and communities with a greater share of married parents tend to be safer and more likely to promote economic opportunity for poor children in their midst. So I'm not sure we need research to argue that children are generally a source of satisfaction and fulfillment, but as Lyman Stone has noted, quote, "Women report greater childbearing ambitions than they have actually achieved." And as Tim Carney and many others across the political spectrum have also noted, research shows, quote, "Married people are much less likely to be poor." Dense concentrations of both social capital and wealth in particular cohorts is a recipe for cultural pain. Wealth and social capital are absolutely connected, but consider also that social capital is divided on partisan and religious lines as well, more and more with every year. So I have two major takeaways from all of this. First, it means our social consensus is going to get even thinner as elites and everyone else live dramatically different lives, and that's in terms of quality too, material quality and emotional quality. Second, as elites profit off a system that promotes wealth inequality, they're doing the same with social capital inequality by destroying institutions and norms that hurt people with less social and financial capital more. They publish op-eds that argue against marriage and children and God while marrying and procreating themselves more because they have the means to do it, and they have the will. I like a lot of what J.D. Vance says, but I'm not sure it was really helpful when he reamed out, quote, childless cat ladies on the left. There's a great truth in his point, that the division between people with and without children is way more politically salient than people want to admit. But this is a source of enormous suffering that will not be healed by cheeky quips. Elites are rigging the economic system. J.D. Vance talks about that, yes. But they're also rigging the cultural one. More people on the right are waking up to the latter. It's time for people on the left and the establishment right, by the way, to stop cowering from cultural issues, terrified of getting blamed for the culture war that the Democratic Party has actually been waging for years. People should care about. People do care about it, and they absolutely should. Brian, people care about it for good reason, because if you are, for instance, a woman who wants to have more children than you've been able to, your reasons if you have less social capital and less financial capital, probably have more to do with your lack of financial capital compared to people who, over the course of the pandemic in the upper class, as this story found, actually said, hey, let's have more kids, because they were Zoom workers and they were banking a bunch of money. They were able to buy more land. It's just a different situation.
Yeah, I think you've identified a very real problem. I think you're coming at the solution from the wrong direction, in the sense that the impulse toward childbearing and toward coupling up, toward family formation, these are universal human values, like throughout the history of humanity. These are things that people very much want.
Yeah.
And so the policy ideas around encouraging it are missing the point, because you don't have to encourage something that is innate. It's like encouraging people to eat.
Yeah.
No, people want to eat. They're hungry, and they're hungry for love as well. And they're hungry for family. And the problem has come in and it has been made extremely clear this week and the last week from a lot of public comments that our national leaders are making, that our economic system is built on the desperation of working people. In fact, the White House is now saying, look, some of these wage inflation pressures are going to ease up by November and December, because Mark Zandi has done a lot of the math, and he has calculated that savings rates are going to be depleted by then. And once savings rates are depleted, people will go back into these garbage jobs that they haven't wanted to work, because they will be literally hungry. They will be desperate.
Extortion.
Yeah, and you have a lot of business owners who have lobbied against food stamps, saying when you increase food stamps too high, then it's harder for us to hire. They literally want people hungry so that they'll come to work. So they have decided that is the economic system that we want to live under. That you have to keep a huge chunk of the population on the brink of despair and desperation, so that they will take jobs that they don't actually want to take. That's a policy choice of how to build an economy. The other way to build an economy, which would be tossing out the kind of neoliberal hyper elevation of the individual, would to say, no, we are going to support workers. We're going to make work a fulfilling thing, because people actually do want to work.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
want projects in their lives to give their lives meanings, and not just their family, but other professional projects as well, to feel like they have an outlet for their natural creative impulses. And if you channel that into a healthy workplace where workers felt empowered and felt some say over the direction of their lives, then I think downstream from that, you would see them living happier lives, creating bigger families, creating more successful marriages, living longer and being happier.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. The thing that I would add to it is that I think the balm that's being promoted by elites on the pages of the New York Times and wherever else is that they sort of are denormalizing and destabilizing these institutions that actually, if you can have them, if you can get married, if you can have children and you can do it comfortably and you can afford it, they're trying to make people feel okay without that, right? Because it's sort of academically in vogue. Yes, exactly. It's a cope. And I think that's disgusting, because they're doing it themselves, because as you say, this is innate. It is what people want. And they're saying essentially, like, here's the academic, here's the intellectual, fashionable reason that this cope is totally fine. And I think that has real effects. And I just find it to be the coupling of both of those things interacting together, the financial and social capital, and the way that people at the top are making both worse for people downstream of them. I think it's pretty gross. Right.
It's like a sour grapes thing. Like those things, family, love, like community, are so difficult to attain in our society that instead of organizing collectively and trying to make them more attainable for people, we say, those things, they weren't really worth much anyway. You don't need that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Except you do.
Right, you do. Well, I'm looking forward to what's on your radar next, Ryan.